Hello and welcome to my today's game, Dune Spice Wars. So it's a game set in the Dune universe, of course, and maybe some of you have played, I think, Dune 2000 or Dune, the really old RTS games from in the 90s basically. And this game is similar setting. You have to get spice and you have to defeat the other factions. However, it's not that kind of a strategy game, not RTS like Command and Conquer, as Westwood produced back then. So this is a complete different producer, completely different type of game. However, of course, the setting is similar. So we are going to go for Battle of Arrakis. So that's like 4 players on a large or middle map, and it's rather slow. It will take some hours to finish. You could also go for the Canly duel version, which is like a sped up version, 1 versus 1, which can be finished within, let's say, 1 hour, 1.5, depending on what kind of winning condition you go for. Military style game can be quite fast. But in Battle for Arrakis you can choose one of the factions here. You could also in the Canly. And we are going for the Emperor. We are going for House Carina. And the House Carina is basically the ruling Emperor of the current Dune universe, let's say it like that. So, we have a certain kind of bonuses and we have advisors or counselors to select. So, first of all, we are going to set up the difficulty settings, so we are going with the medium map size, putting every activity like sandworms which can occur, storms that can occur, sieges that can attack you, all on high, which is not only for us but also for the AI. We allow basically every winning condition, and the AI difficulty is insane, so to make it a little bit of a struggle or make it harder. We are going to let's think about it. I want the Atreides in the game. Also I want the Harkonnen in the game, and I want the Fremen in the game. So we are going to kick out the smugglers for this playthrough. So back to House Carina. So we are Shaddam the Fourth, which is the current Emperor. And the situation on Arrakis calls for the direct intervention of the Padishah Emperor, who will use all his wit and might of this administration to turn the war to his benefit. So basically, our premise is we want to intervene and take over Dune for ourselves. So if you have read the books, or if you watched the movie Dune Part 1, you know that of course isn't really what's happening. However, this is an RTS style game, so every faction is competing on the map. Our faction bonuses are Imperial Edict, which is basically we can switch certain resolutions which are up for voting. I will explain it when it comes up. We have Diplomatic Action, Imperial Mandate. It's basically something you can negotiate with other factions. You can do, for example, non-aggression pacts or trade pacts with the AI. So you also have Emperor, have Imperial Mandate. So the Emperor is all about building tall instead of wide. So you get 1 free building slot in a village, and you get more authority cost to annex villages. So you are slower in expansion, but you can build more stuff in your villages. And this is quite important. You have to really use that to your advantage. And we are also going to select counselors who are going to support this playstyle. And when you progress and get more score, like 25k hegemony is one of the winning conditions you could achieve. So then you get further improvements. So yeah, you get more score when you do certain stuff. You get more standing when you are elected to charters, not when other factions are elected to charters. And you can offer imperial favor on a council, so resolution, which is basically voting part of the game. So now we have to select a counselor. So we want to support the tall style, which means we are going to take the Vensikia. I think she's a daughter. Yes, she's a daughter. Same for Princess Irulan, which is the first daughter of Shaddam. However, we are going with Vensikia Corino. Can build some economic buildings twice, so we can build buildings 2 times in a village. Normally, you can only have 1 building each in each village. The second one we are going to take is in fact a little bit of a harder choice. So we are not going with the captain here because I rather consider that to be quite weak. So this one is can spend solar to cancel negative resolution. Might be. Yeah, let's go with the both daughters in our council and start the game with that. So basically what we need to do now is get spice. So that's exactly what our... So you can pause the game. In single player you can pause the game, of course. If you play multiplayer it wouldn't be possible. Second, I need to reduce the game sound a bit here. Okay. So we are landing here on the planet Arrakis, or Dune as it is called, and we are starting with an ornithopter here. So our base, we're going to use it, keys for that to have a quick menu. And first of all, what we're going to do is recruit some armies and units, because we're going to need it to conquer territory.
Listening.
So what we want to do,
Received.
let's start is we want to get the spice rolling. So here's a spice field which we can exploit, and that's of course what we want to settle first. On the left side we are going to get quests. So the first quest is to get a village in a region with spice. So we are exactly doing that. We are going to reconnaissance here, or recon this province, and then we are going to try to take it out.
Yes. Copy.
So also we can...
Yes, Majesty. We'll march there.
Awaiting order. Copy. Received.
So we can set our ornithopter onto auto recon, which we're going to do
We are ready.
to just let him
Yes.
explore. So with that we did our first quest, which is searching the first village. So now let's explain a little bit about the game. So you are going to hunt for territory here. So you have like these provinces here, and each province is a village. This here is Mimdak, first village we found, and it requires you to provide with water, because Dune is a desert planet, so water is one of the most wanted commodities, so you have to get it. And you also need authority to take over that province. Now we are Corino, so the annexation cost of exactly these villages is increased. So it's quite important to check out what each village can provide you. And each village has 2 stats. For example, we have intersecting data. We are getting intel. Intel is something we can use with our agents, which is getting unlocked later. When the village had at least 1 building of each type, so you need to have a military building, you have an economic building, you have a statecraft building. I can show you in a sec. And we have well diggers, which is giving a bit additional water when we build economic buildings. So let's first conquer it, and then we can talk about the building types
We
again.
serve the Imperium. Yes, Majesty.
We got our smallest troops here
We
now,
won't fail in our duty.
and they are going to fight here. Our ornithopter here has found different things now. He has found some kind of event or some kind of relic.
Listening. Okay.
And this here is an abandoned Fremen camp. And let's pause for a sec. We have 2 options here. As soon as we have agents unlocked, we could do the left event. So we would need an agent for that. And the reward here would give us increased siege detection. So sieges are like neutral villages which you can't conquer. You can kill them, then they are gone, I think. Or you, but they will attack you frequently. Or you can trade with them and pacify them that way, so they support you a bit. The other way is you could go here with military units and get some plus greed. So plus greed is one of the resources we have here, which is basically our building material. Every building we construct will cost us plus greed. Also, every building we are going to do is more or less costing us Solari, either as upkeep or as building cost. And that's the two main resources you need. Then there are additional resources. One we talked about already is authority, so that's what you need to annex provinces or annex villages. And sometimes you need it for quests or something different. You also need it for diplomacy sometimes to make agreements like a non-aggression pact. Then you also have water, which we have 14 available currently. The village is going to take us 5, so after that we only have 9 available. And we have fuel cells, which are basically used to operate our vehicles, which is, for example, the Spice Crawler, but also the Ornithopter, which we have, and later in the game, for example, also flying units, I think. Let's check it out. So we have access to the hammer. Yeah, it needs fuel cells and stuff like that. So yeah. Okay. So in regards to military, we selected, or we built 2 tier 1 units basically. So that's a ranged unit and a melee unit. Relatively soon we could unlock the incinerator, which is also a between range and melee. But also you have other units. For example, you could recruit the Sarduka, which is the elite troop of the Empire, which are probably the best melee units in the game. Then you have an artillery drone, so that's a flying... No, it's not a flying unit, it's remote controlled, it's just a drone, but also ground based. And then you have 2 flying units, the Hammer and the Kronos. The Hammer is a bomber class unit, basically doing area, well, AoE damage basically. And the Kronos, what does it do? Okay, it just has cannons. It's basically just a strong attacking unit. And yeah, so these ones we are going to unlock later on, which we are going to do probably, because we are going to need a strong military here. So we have our next quest here, which is control 1 village in a region with a spice field. And we have 2 military units already fulfilled, so we are going to go for that. If you already know everything, you could skip these kind of tutorial quests, because they're not going to give you any reward.
We serve the Imperium.
So now our units are fighting here, and when they kill something you get experience, which is making them stronger over time, so there we saw. So you need 100 experience to get to level 2. It's only a marginal buff, it's a little bit, so to encourage you to not throw units away, because they are quite expensive in the end, and fighting a lot therefore has a little bit of a reward. Okay, and our Ornithopter is continuing to explore the planet, and we are now going to take this village here. Okay, so we got our spice field here, which we are going to take first, but also here is a here's a settlement, and here's a settlement. And as Corinna, we have the problem that we don't want to, or we can't expand fast, so we really have to make sure that we have the best spots which we can get, so we have to really check out these bonuses here. For example, here we would get 20% experience gains, so we would get more experience per fight whenever we are in our own territories, and manpower per statecraft building, which is decent. And here we got resources from pillaging a village. It's also useful. And handyman 60% construction costs reduction and minus I think that's a little bit weird. It's just meant that in this village you can build faster and you can cheaper. I think the time is missing here. So I think the game is still in early access, so it's constantly getting improved, and the latest update we got is in fact the air units update. And that's really, really good. Okay, so we got our first village. And in that village we are now going to build something. So we could recruit militia, which is going to defend the village for us. However, we are not going to do that yet because they are too expensive at start. What we want to do is, in fact, we want to build buildings. We have economy, military and statecraft. Economy is obvious, you can get bonuses to these resources here basically. So we could, for example, go for the refinery to get more spice, or spice going basically. We can build a plascrete factory, which we are also going to do. But we can also build a wind trap to get water, fuel cells factory and other buildings which are currently not yet unlocked. In a military building tree we can go for manpower production, airfields which allow to quick transport of units, but also missile batteries which are basically a static defense. In the statecraft we can get other bonuses, for example knowledge, which we are going to check out next. It's basically science or research and tech. But you can also get intel, which is going to be important for the agents. And you can get a propaganda office here, which costs you authority but improves the resource production quite a lot here. So this is in fact I think a Carino specific building. And you have these star buildings here, which you can unlock when you have 5,000 hegemony, which is of course still a bit away. So also there are other buildings you could get, for example the listening post, which you get when which you can build when you are neighboring enemies, which we are of course not yet doing. So what we want to do of course is we start with a refinery, and yeah, now we call back our units and we are going to recruit another infantry here. So you also have to select the science, and there are basically 4 trees available. I think both of these are economic, this is statecraft and this is military. And yeah, so there are certain technologies which are unique for your faction, and they of course change from the faction to the faction you play. For example, solid materials here gives a bonus here compared to the other faction. For example, we get more armor on all our buildings, which is of course important when you have static defense, for example. So this one plays into building tall. We have also imperial taxes here, 20 solar production per faction paying a tax or bribe to house a winner. Because we are the emperor, everybody is going to pay us stuff, and of course we are going to try to use that. We also have outrageous wealth here, which is a really good tech. Yes, megalopolis we got here, ally. Villages neighboring imperial base get 20% resource production, militia health, and unlocks the crafts workshop village building. And we also got imperial administration. So basically this is also pushing towards the tall build style. You want to have 4 or more buildings at the same time, which is basically one branch, like economic stuff. +1 instance of the village trades in ally neighboring imperial bases. So when you are neighboring a base like this one, you can build more of these later on. These trades here, you would get 1 of each on top. So we would get 4 water. I think Oh, it's only one of these which is getting doubled, and I think it's a little bit random. But in this case, we, for example, could get 4 water per economy building here. And we are going to build economy buildings here. So, and the other one which we have for Corino here is plus 0.5 knowledge per completed district. We're going to check it out in a sec what a district is. Yeah, so... And we have, of course, certain military buffs here which are unique to our faction. And there's Emperor's Eyes here. You would get... Okay, you would get agents for this tech. Now, there's basically only 2 options you want to go with at the early game. It's either solid materials to reduce the building costs, or you go into Megalopolis, depending on what you want to do. In my personal opinion, minus 15% building construction cost isn't worth it right now. Megalopolis is probably better. And also what we want to get is the spy and logistics to get more agents quicker, because they are basically getting received over time and there's not much that can influence it. And I really like the Emperor Monument building. So, the district of the Imperial base is getting unlocked at 2k, so we have to expand until then and get more points, which we are going to get, for example, by getting regions and doing special contracts and stuff like that. So, we in fact finished the village here, so we can get our non-existent reward here. And there's another mission here, which is like start the spice harvesting, which we are going to do. The refinery is getting built here. And the next village we are going to take up is in fact this one, to get the bonuses here. We found a special region. It's a Mundu Vale. It's a hidden valley which has a little bit of green, which is very rare on Arrakis itself. When you get these kind of special regions, you get 1k victory score. Of course, you can lose that region and then you lose that score. You need, as said, 25k to win the game, and I don't think that we are going to go that path. And one of the better winning... Wait a second, we got our military unit. There are certain victory conditions we could go for. So one is of course the domination victory type, so we could just kill each one of our enemies here. The other one would be to reach 25k points of hegemony, and the last one would be to get a cash or quorum shares victory, which is basically you get the majority of the empire's industry, basically, more or less, and that's very cash intensive. However, maybe easier for Corino to do than the other victory types.
Yes.
Yeah, interesting would be what here we have economy building, very useful. But in fact we are going for this province, because we want at start get all the provinces surrounding us. So we are going to attack this province here. And now our harvester of spice has finished. So we have to deploy him to collect in spice here. And our carryall is going to transport it here. So this is open desert, therefore it's very dangerous. Dune is...
We serve the Imperium.
Well, guarded by the sandworms of Dune, and you have to be very careful to not attract them and lose stuff, units and whatever. So our mining here is time limited until we attract a worm. Then we have to retreat a while to let him run away again. And of course fighting on the open desert also is going to attract... interesting. Our research is already done. So the first ones are quite fast. So what do we want to do? We could go now for the advanced, the solid materials, not advanced, that's here. So we could go here, then here, and then here. However, we could also argue that we want to go the the spy or agent path. Or we first unlock the Imperial Administration. Yeah, I think we're going for the Imperial Administration because that's stronger in the way of building tall. So we are going to queue up these two. Okay, and we are getting attacked down here by the Fremen. So in fact, I'm going to pull out these two.
Majesty. Yes, Majesty.
And oh, I looted. I attacked a little bit too early. So we have to wait a bit. Our quest is done. So we started spice harvesting. And that's going to be the start of our campaign here, basically. Okay, now we have to defend down here. And then our initial industry is more or less set up. So the incomes you have here is basically per day. So we are now at the 12th of January. You could increase the speed here, however we are going to start slowly. And you are going to take that village now. So we are getting attacked by Fremen, which are the native population of the planet, and they don't like us being around. Okay, when the fight is over, we can also build the next building here.
We serve the Imperium.
So when the timer is off here. Okay. Now the second building we want to do is of course the plascrete factory here, but also up here we want to do another plascrete factory. So to increase our income of plascrete, which we are going to need for all the buildings we want to do.
On
Now,
launch. Received.
our ornithopter, we are going to control him manually for a sec because we want to find out what is in the top left here. And of course this territory here. Because we have to determine whether we want to expand southwards or left.
Listening. On vector.
So where is
On
the
the
village
move.
here?
On
There we
vector.
go. Both are no special region, which is fine, but not bad. Okay, our first agent got unlocked. And this opens up a completely new screen here. On the right side we can see missions which we can unlock over time, for which we are going to need intel, which we saw like as a reward in the villages that you get income of intel. Here, for example, we could do a mission, a probe setup, which you can activate on a territory, and then you receive knowledge about everything that is hidden there. But of course you can also unlock certain manipulations of territories. For example, this one would sabotage military units of the enemy, so make them weaker, which is of course very important when you attack or defend somewhere. Now, at start, all we want to do is put our first agent and the second agent under Arrakis infiltration. We want to get the rewards here, and what we would get is authority production and intel production, so we would get 4 authority now instead of 3. The Spacing Guild, which is basically the transport union of the universe or the empire here, would produce manpower for you and intel. The Hoam, which is basically the finance and industrial side of the empire. Would give you salary, which is cash up here. And the Landsrat, which is basically the political playfield of the empire, is giving you influence. And influence is the blue resource here, which we are going to need when it's getting unlocked in 6 days to do resolutions, votings and stuff for the planet, but also the empire. So also we could of course set one of our agents to the other factions, which would produce a large amount of intel and would infiltrate the other faction, which you would need to get the last victory condition, which is the assassination pathway, which is basically similar to domination, because you would exterminate the leaders of the other faction and therefore win the game, similar to domination. Yeah. So, of course, a lot of stuff we can't see yet because we don't have the infiltration levels, and, well, yeah. That's it. I think, give me a second. No, this is only for the... I'm not sure, is that for the Fremen? Yeah, that's for the Fremen here. Okay, you can click here and then you can see the stats of the other ones, but you don't see everything accurately yet. You would need to infiltrate them to see which advisors they got and stuff like that, which territories they control, which special regions and so on. So, yeah, let's continue our build up here.
For duty. Yes,
Pull back our
Majesty.
militaries to the Imperial base, and we are already at 1k score. And what do we have here? Oh yeah,
Reporting for duty.
we wanted to loot that. And here we got trade informations, spies for siege detection, which we are not going to do yet. So let's check something else out. So we are getting spies. What can we do with that? Spies can on the one hand can be sold. So currently our spies exchange rate is we can transform 1 spice into 2 cash or salary here, but we have to pay the guild, which is the transport union of the universe basically, or the empire, a monthly fee to keep them happy but also keep the empire running, because in the Dune universe we need spies to do hyperspace flights and so on. So if they wouldn't get spies from anyone, the transportation basically of the whole infrastructure would shut down. That's something we don't want, and we don't want to annoy them basically. However, we are the emperor and we have to give the guild the spice they need. And the spice demand currently is 400, and our stocks is going to be 525 when the timer runs out in 9 days. So we are currently already close to 400, and after the delivery is done we are going to get an additional supply of spice from the other factions. So basically they need to pay us to not lose faith in front of the empire basically, but all political parties, not just me as the emperor. So they have to pay me, like basically a tax, and get a reward for that. They get victory score for that, but we also get victory score when we can make the guild happy. So it's like an interesting concept that the other faction have to pay us, and then we have to pay the guild, which is a non-playable faction. And when everything works fine, everybody gets score and victory conditions progress. But if one of them maybe fails to pay, then also I as emperor might not be able to pay the next upkeep. So after 400 it's going to be higher in the next term. Of course the exchange rate can also change over time. That's also very important for the money you can make. Yeah. Okay, continue. And yeah, so currently we are just going to build up here. So buildings are going up, and okay, we have here a province with energy resource buff basically, so plus 50% on the fuel cell factory resource production, and the Fremen can do other things here. And what else do we have here? 3 Solari per statecraft building, 3 Solari per economy building. So the plus 3 production per Solari is of course nice with that energy resource. So if you would make a fuel cell factory, you would not only get fuel cells, but you would also get a little bit of cash, which is very important.
Awaiting order.
And
On watch.
now we want to check out the other province, because then we can make a decision what we want to do. Okay, now we got a notification that our point of interest is explored, and we are going to take the plus deal here. So 500 in fact is massive, and we are going to invest that directly into stuff. So what do we want to do? We could produce more water because we are lacking it. So we only have plus 5, which is not that much, because we need plus 5 for each village we take over, but also for each military unit. It's going to take 3, the larger one takes 6 or more. So we need more and more water. Now, how can you produce water? It's a building, it's a wind trap, and the wind trap scales with the wind of the region. So this region has a wind strength of 4. It can go between, I think, 0 or 1 to 6. So this one is in the upper efficiency regions. So we get 3 per level of wind. So we would get 12 water from this province. And that's something we are in fact going to take. This regions, for example, could produce 5 water, 5. Oh, so maybe we want to, in fact, maybe we want to not do it here. No, in fact we want to build a plascrete factory here. Another one. Yes, we're getting water for that. And then we are going to build the water plant here, which is going to give us 3 additional water here. Yeah, and that's it for the moment. And I think with that the early game is covered, and we're going to make a small cut here. So see you next time.